I had been with the company for 9 years. 9 years of perfect performance reviews, of staying late, of mentoring new hires. So when my boss asked me to train the new team member, I thought nothing of it. I had no idea that 2 weeks later, I'd be escorted out of the building by security, accused of something I never did, while that same new hire sat in my chair doing my job. My name's Danielle, and I was a senior operations manager at a mid-sized logistics company in Phoenix. I'd started there fresh out of college as an entry-level coordinator, and over nearly a decade, I'd worked my way up through sheer dedication. My department consistently outperformed our quarterly targets. My team respected me. I genuinely believed I was on track to become director when my boss, Richard, eventually retired. Richard was in his early 60s, and he'd been hinting about retirement for the past year. He'd even mentioned to me privately that he was grooming me for his position. Those words kept me going through the long hours and the thankless weekends. Then, about 2 months ago, Richard called me into his office with an unusual request. "Danielle, we've got a new hire starting Monday," he said, barely looking up from his computer. "Her name is Morgan. She's coming in as an operations specialist, but she's got potential. I want you to personally train her." I didn't think twice. Training new hires was something I genuinely enjoyed. It was a chance to shape the next generation of our team. Morgan arrived that Monday morning. She was probably 25, polished and confident in a way that felt almost rehearsed. She had perfectly styled hair, expensive clothes, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. Something about her felt off from the start, but I pushed that feeling aside. I wasn't going to judge someone before giving them a fair chance. The first few days went smoothly enough. I walked Morgan through our systems, introduced her to key contacts, and explained the nuances of our workflow that you couldn't learn from any manual. She nodded along, asked the right questions, and took detailed notes on her laptop. But then I started noticing things. Morgan would disappear for long stretches during the day. When I'd ask where she'd been, she'd give vague answers about meetings or HR paperwork. I checked the conference room schedules. No meetings. When I mentioned this to Richard, he waved it off. "She's new, Danielle. Maybe she's just getting her bearings. Give her time." By the second week, Morgan's behavior had shifted. She'd started questioning my methods in front of other team members. She'd interrupt me during meetings to offer alternative approaches that were just reworded versions of what I'd just said. Small things, but they added up. Then came the day that made my stomach drop. I was walking past Richard's office when I heard Morgan's voice inside. The door was cracked just slightly, and I couldn't help but overhear. "I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity, Uncle Rich. Mom said you'd take care of me, and she was right." Uncle Rich. I felt the blood drain from my face. Morgan wasn't just some promising new hire, she was Richard's niece. And suddenly, all those meetings she'd been having, all those times Richard dismissed my concerns, it all made sickening sense. I didn't confront either of them. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe nepotism was involved in her hiring, but that didn't mean anything would change for me. I had 9 years of proven performance. That had to count for something. The following Monday, Richard called me into his office again. This time, Morgan was already there, sitting in the chair I usually occupied. "Danielle," Richard began, his voice strangely formal, "I'm going to need you to transition all of your projects to Morgan." I blinked. "All of them? For how long?" "Permanently." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "We're restructuring the department. Your position is being consolidated." Consolidated, the corporate euphemism for eliminated. "Richard, I don't understand," I said, my voice shaking despite my efforts to stay calm. "I've been here 9 years. You told me I was next in line for director. What's happening?" Morgan shifted in her seat, and I could swear I saw the corner of her mouth twitch upward. "Things changed, Danielle," Richard said flatly. "The company is going in a new direction. Morgan will be taking over as senior operations manager. We're offering you a position as her assistant, same pay if you want it. Otherwise, we can discuss a severance package." Her assistant. The person I'd been training for 2 weeks was now being offered my job, and I was being asked to work underneath her. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to process what was happening. 9 years, perfect reviews, mentoring dozens of employees, and this was how it ended? "I need time to think," I managed. "Take the rest of the day," Richard said dismissively. "We'll need your answer by tomorrow morning." I walked out of that office in a daze. I spent the entire night unable to sleep, rage and hurt battling for dominance in my chest. By morning, I'd made my decision. I wouldn't be anyone's assistant, especially not Morgan's. Okay, I have to stop here for a second because at this moment I was angrier than I'd ever been in my professional life, but I also had no idea what was coming next. If you think what Richard did was completely unacceptable, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, would you have taken the assistant position just to stay employed, or would you have walked away? Because what HR did to me the next day, I still have nightmares about it. The next morning, I walked into Richard's office with my head held high. I won't be accepting the assistant position, I said firmly. I'll take the severance package. Richard's expression flickered. Was that relief? Before settling back into professional neutrality. I'm sorry to hear that, Danielle. HR will reach out to discuss the details. I nodded and turned to leave, but then I stopped at the door. 9 years, Richard, I said quietly. I gave this company 9 years, and you didn't even have the decency to tell me you were handing my job to your niece. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. I walked out. I spent the morning cleaning out my desk, saying quiet goodbyes to team members who seemed genuinely shocked by the news. Many of them had heard nothing about a restructuring. One of them, my colleague Patricia, pulled me aside. Danielle, something's not right here, she whispered. Yesterday, Morgan was in HR for over an hour, and afterward, I heard her on the phone with someone saying, "It's handled." Before I could respond, 2 security guards appeared at the end of our row of cubicles. They were walking directly toward me. "Ms. Danielle Carter?" the taller one said. Every conversation in the office stopped. Every eye turned to watch. "Yes?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "We need you to come with us. HR has requested your immediate removal from the premises." Removal? I'm packing my things right now. I'm leaving voluntarily. "Ma'am, we've been instructed that you're not to be allowed to take any company property and you're to be escorted immediately. There's been a complaint." A complaint? My mind raced. What complaint? I looked across the office and saw Morgan standing near Richard's door, watching the scene unfold with an expression of practiced concern, but her eyes were triumphant. The walk to HR felt like a death march. The security guards flanked me as we passed through the main floor. Coworkers I'd known for years stared, whispered, looked away in embarrassment. Some of them looked sympathetic, others looked confused. A few wouldn't meet my eyes at all. In the HR conference room, a woman I'd never seen before was waiting. She introduced herself as the company's external HR consultant. "Ms. Carter, we've received a serious complaint regarding your conduct over the past 2 weeks." "My conduct? What are you talking about?" She slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed emails I had never written, using my work address. They contained disparaging comments about Morgan, about her qualifications, about her appearance. Some of them bordered on threatening. "I didn't write these," I said, my hands trembling. "These are fabricated. Someone spoofed my email or accessed my account." "Ms. Carter, IT has confirmed these were sent from your workstation during business hours." "Then someone used my computer when I wasn't there. Morgan was constantly in my workspace. She could have easily—" "Enough," the consultant's voice was sharp. "The company is choosing not to pursue legal action at this time, given your years of service. However, your severance package is being revoked. You will be terminated for cause, effective immediately." For cause. No severance, no unemployment benefits. A permanent mark on my record. I was escorted to my car by security carrying nothing but my purse, my personal photos, my plants, my 9 years of memories, all left behind in that building. I sat in my car in that parking garage and sobbed for 30 minutes, but then something shifted. The grief gave way to cold, clear rage. I drove home and immediately began documenting everything. Every interaction with Morgan, the overheard conversation about Uncle Rich, Patricia's observation about Morgan's long meeting with HR. I wrote it all down. Then I called a lawyer. My attorney, Susan, was a firecracker. Within a week, she had subpoenaed the company's email server logs and IT records. What we found was damning. The emails attributed to me were sent during a time I was verifiably in a client meeting off-site. The IP address logs showed the messages originated from a device registered to, you guessed it, Morgan. Susan also uncovered that Richard had been planning my removal for months, ever since Morgan graduated college. Internal communications revealed the entire restructuring was a fiction created specifically to justify eliminating my position. We filed a wrongful termination lawsuit with additional claims for defamation, fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The company tried to settle quietly. They offered 6 months severance to make it go away. Susan laughed at them. We pushed forward. By the time we reached mediation, the company's legal team was desperate. They knew that if this went to court, the evidence of Morgan's email fraud and Richard's orchestrated scheme would become public record. Their reputation would be destroyed. The final settlement? 2 years' salary, full benefits continuance, a clean employment record, and a formal letter of apology from the company. Richard was forced into early retirement, though I suspect he just moved to a different department in everything but name. And Morgan? She quietly resigned 3 weeks after the settlement was finalized. Patricia called me recently. She said the office finally feels normal again. She also said everyone still talks about how I didn't just go quietly, how I fought back. 9 years at that company taught me a lot about hard work and dedication, but those final 2 weeks taught me something even more valuable. Never let anyone erase your worth without a fight. Thank you so much for watching until the end. This story was incredibly hard to share, but if it helps even one person recognize the signs of workplace sabotage, it was worth it. If you connected with this story, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you have your own workplace nightmare, a toxic boss, an HR disaster, or a coworker who made your life hell, I want to hear about it. Drop your story in the comments or send it through the link in the description. Your story could be featured next. Take care of yourselves and remember, know your worth.